I still remember the exact moment my brother's hand hit my face. The sound sharp, loud, humiliating, cut through the room like glass shattering. And the worst part? Everyone heard it. Everyone saw it. But no one moved. It was Christmas dinner. The one night every year my family pretended we were normal. The table was full roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, candles glowing like something out of a movie. And for a few minutes, I almost believed the lie. I'm 33 years old, and somehow, sitting at that table made me feel like I was 13 again. Small, invisible, and always one mistake away from being torn apart. "Can you pass the gravy?" my brother Mark said, barely looking at me. His voice had that tone, the one I knew too well. I reached for it, but my hand slipped. It wasn't dramatic, just a small accident. The bowl tilted slightly, and a bit of gravy spilled onto the tablecloth right near his plate. That's it. That's all it took. Before I could even say sorry, his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Then, smack! My head snapped to the side. My cheek burned instantly, like someone had pressed fire against my skin. "Are you blind?" he shouted, his voice echoing across the dining room. Everything went silent. I slowly turned back, my ears ringing, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. My hands were shaking, but I clenched them under the table so no one would see. I didn't mean to," I whispered. But he just laughed. Actually laughed. "Of course you didn't. You never mean anything, do you?" he said, shaking his head like it was some kind of disappointment he was tired of explaining. And then I looked around the table. My mom avoided my eyes, suddenly very interested in fixing her napkin. My dad cleared his throat, but said nothing. My aunt stared at her plate like this was just normal, like this always happens. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just hurt. It shifted. Because this wasn't new. Mark had always been like this, loud, cruel, untouchable, and I had always been the one who stayed quiet, who kept the peace, who swallowed the humiliation. But sitting there, with my face still burning and the taste of embarrassment choking me, I realized something I had never allowed myself to think before. What if this was the last time he ever got away with it? I didn't say anything. I didn't react. I just sat there, quietly, and for the first time in my life, I started planning. I didn't cry. That's what surprised me the most. Normally, I would have excused myself, locked myself in the bathroom, and let the tears come quietly like I always did growing up. But this time, nothing. Just this cold, steady feeling settling deep in my chest. I picked up my napkin, calmly wiped the gravy off the table, and said, "It's fine. I'll clean it." Mark scoffed. "Yeah, you better." The conversation slowly restarted, like nothing had happened. Forks clinked against plates. Someone turned the music up a little louder. It was almost impressive how quickly they erased it. But I didn't forget. I watched him. The way he leaned back in his chair like he owned the room. The way he talked over everyone. The way my parents still looked at him like he could do no wrong. And suddenly, everything started connecting. This wasn't just about dinner. It never was. Mark had always been the successful one, the golden child, the one who got the family business handed to him without question. Meanwhile, I built my own career from scratch, long hours, sleepless nights, proving myself over and over again. And still somehow I was the disappointment. But here's what they didn't know. I knew something about Mark, something no one else at that table knew. About 3 months ago, I had been working late at my office numbers, reports, contracts. That's my world. I see things other people miss, and I saw his name. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but then I dug deeper. Transactions, missing funds, accounts that didn't quite add up. Small at first, but consistent, careless, and illegal. I didn't say anything back then. I told myself it wasn't my problem. That family, even a broken one, wasn't something you destroy. But now I could still feel the sting on my cheek. Now I could still hear his voice echoing in my head. "Are you blind?" I looked up at him across the table. He was laughing again, completely unaware. And for the first time, I didn't see my older brother. I saw a man who thought he was untouchable. That was his mistake, because I wasn't that quiet little girl anymore, and I wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. I reached for my phone under the table, my fingers steady now. There were files. Proof. Everything I needed. I had a choice. I could walk away, like I always had, or I could finally make him feel what it's like to lose everything in front of everyone. I took a slow breath, and then I made my decision. Didn't do it right away. That would have been too easy, and honestly, too messy. Instead, I waited. I let the night continue like nothing had changed. I even forced a small smile when my aunt asked me about work. I nodded when my mom told one of her usual stories. I played my role perfectly. Because this time, I wasn't reacting. I was calculating. Mark, on the other hand, got louder as the night went on. A couple of drinks in, and he was practically performing cracking jokes, bragging about the business, soaking in the attention like he always did. Next year, he said, raising his glass, we're expanding. Bigger contracts, bigger money. Everyone clapped. Course they did. I just sat there quietly watching him build his own stage, because I knew exactly how I was going to tear it down. Dessert came out, pumpkin pie, whipped cream, the whole picture-perfect ending to a completely fake evening. And that's when I decided. I stood up. At first, no one noticed. Why would they? I was the quiet one, remember? But then I picked up my glass and gently tapped it with a fork. Clink. Clink. The room fell silent again, but this time, it was different. Hey, I said softly, my voice calm. Steady, since we're all here. I actually wanted to share something too. Mark smirked, leaning back in his chair. Oh wow, this should be good. I met his eyes, and I smiled. Yeah, I said, I think it will be. I pulled out my phone, my heart beating slow and controlled, now not like before. This wasn't fear. This was power. I've been working on something the past few months, I continued, and it's interesting. My dad frowned slightly. What do you mean? I didn't answer him. Instead, I connected my phone to the TV. In the living room, the same screen we used every year for family slideshows, the screen lit up. Numbers, documents, transaction logs. At first, no one understood. But then, Mark sat forward, just slightly, just enough. And that's when I knew. He recognized it. Wait, he said quickly, his voice tighter now. What is this? I tilted my head, pretending to think. You tell me, I replied calmly. The room shifted. Confusion turned into tension. My mom looked between us. Honey, what's going on? I took a slow breath, letting the silence stretch just long enough to hurt. Then I said, the one thing I knew would break everything. These are financial records from the company, I said, and they show consistent money transfers into a private account. I paused and looked directly at Mark. Your account. The room went completely still, and for the first time all night, Mark didn't have anything to say. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the air itself had thickened. Mark's face changed. Not dramatically, not in some explosive, obvious way, but I saw it, that tiny flicker of panic behind his eyes. Turn that off, he said quickly, standing up. You don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't move. No, I replied calmly. I know exactly what I'm talking about. My dad stood up next, his voice tense. Mark, what is she saying? This is ridiculous, Mark snapped, running a hand through his hair. She's twisting numbers. She's always been jealous. Jealous? I cut in, my voice still quiet but sharp enough to stop him. Of what? Being protected no matter what you do? That hit hard. He froze for half a second, and in that moment I knew I had him. I turned back to the screen. 3 months, I said. That's how long this has been going on. Small amounts spread out so no one notices. But I noticed. My mom's voice shook. Mark, please tell me this isn't true. He didn't answer her. Instead, He looked at me, or really looked at me for the first time in years, and there it was. Not anger, fear. "You should have stayed quiet," he muttered. I almost laughed. "Yeah," I said softly. "That's what I've been doing my whole life." I stepped closer to the table, my heart steady, my voice stronger now. "But you made a mistake tonight," I continued. "You didn't just humiliate me. You reminded me exactly who you are." I picked up my coat, and I decided I'm done protecting you. My dad's voice came out low, shaken. "What does that mean?" I met his eyes. "It means," I said, "those same files are already with someone who doesn't ignore things like this." Mark's head snapped toward me. "What did you do?" I held his gaze. "I sent everything to an external auditor this afternoon," I said. "Before dinner." That was the moment it broke. The control, the confidence, the illusion. "All of it?" he whispered. I nodded. Every emotion I had swallowed for years, every insult, every moment of silence, every time I was made to feel small, it all settled into one quiet, powerful truth. He wasn't untouchable. He was exposed, and there was nothing he could do about it. I turned toward the door, then paused just long enough to say one last thing. "Merry Christmas, Mark." And this time, I was the one who walked away while everyone else sat there in silence. But the best part? It wasn't the revenge. It was knowing he'd finally have to face the consequences. And I'd never feel small again.